Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's baking blog. Today I'm going to be making some almond oatmeal cookies or biscuits, depending on what you like to call them. Now these are going to be some cookies which are made without any flour at all. I have oatmeal, half of which I'm going to grind in a processor with the almonds to reduce the size into a sort of a powdery flour type mixture, and then the rest of the oatmeal will go in to give the texture basically. It's quite straightforward, doesn't take very long, and hopefully this should be very tasty. For the ingredients I have 125 grams of butter, which is 1 stick of butter and about a scant tablespoon. I have 1 medium egg, which would be large in the USA, and 1 egg yolk, which would be a large egg yolk in the USA. I have the zest of a lemon. I have 8 grams of baking powder, which is about 1 teaspoon and 3/4 would be okay, and I have 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Then I have 300 grams of rolled oats. Now I've split that into 150 grams in this little immersion blender and 150 grams to go in later. And I have 50 grams of ground almonds. 50 grams of whole almonds is fine, because you'll put those into the food processor or the immersion blender as well, and you'll mix those and grind them down. But since I have ground almonds, I'm going to use those, and I'll put those into my immersion blender now. And then I have 125 grams of caster sugar. You could use granulated sugar, so that would be half a cup is 100 grams, and then 25 grams would be 1/8 of a cup. So that's all the ingredients, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just process these oats and ground and almonds and get them to a much smaller texture. I should say I'm only doing this in the immersion blender because it's less washing up than getting the food processor out. And that's done that quite easily. So then what I'm going to do is to put the butter in, and this is softened butter, and I'm just going to mix that together as well. And that's reasonably well mixed together, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip that into a larger bowl so that I can add the other ingredients. So everything else can then go in, which is the sugar, the baking powder, the lemon zest, the ground cinnamon, and the eggs with the yolk. And I'm going to use my hand to mix those together, but I'm going to start it off with a knife. Like that. And then I'll put the other oats in. And I'm going to scrape down the bowl, and then I'm going to get my hand in there. And I want to mix this together until it's all fully combined. And that's well mixed together, as you can see. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that onto some cling film, plastic wrap I should say. We call it cling film in the UK. I'm just going to scrape the excess off my hands as well and out of the bowl. And I'm going to wrap that up, and I'm going to chill that for 30 minutes, and then I will come back and we'll divide it into pieces and put it onto parchment lined baking trays. I've let our oatmeal and almond mixture chill for 30 minutes, and I should have said to preheat the oven to 180 Celsius, 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit. And I've got baking trays which I've lined with parchment paper. So the next thing to do, and I've already done one just for working out the size, is to take pieces which weigh 15 grams and roll them into balls, and I've got some water in a bowl here that I can dip my fingers in to make it easier if necessary, and put them on the baking tray, leaving a space so that they can spread a little bit as well. I've rolled them out, and I've actually got 40 here, and I have another 6 on a smaller tray. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put those into the oven, and I'm going to bake them for between 15 and 20 minutes. And to an extent that depends on how firm you want the biscuits or the cookies. I prefer them to have a bit of a crunch, so I'm going to probably leave mine in for slightly longer. Then I'll take them out and let them cool down, and I'll come back and show you the results. Our almond oatmeal cookies are now baked, and I baked mine for 20 minutes at 160F with a fan, because I wanted them to go that little bit crunchy if possible. If you bake them for slightly less, I think they'll be slightly less crunchy. And I also, when I did mine, after 2 minutes, I took a spatula and flattened the top of one of the baking trays worth of cookies. I wanted to see the difference between leaving them as a round ball and what would happen, as opposed to if I flattened them out a little bit. So this is the result. Now these ones are those which I didn't flatten, so they're just a nice cookie, and they've got the domed top like that. And this is one where I actually took my spatula, just pressed it on top to flatten it a little bit, and it's spread slightly more, as you can see, and it's not so domed. But I've had a taste of each of them already, and I know that they both taste exactly the same. So I'll just have another try now. For me, they're nice and perfectly nice and crunchy, and I get that slight hint of lemon and a very faint hint of cinnamon, but they're very good indeed. Ideal with a cup of tea, which I've got to one side here. And I think for some people have an intolerance to wheat, and if that's the case, I think this will be an ideal cookie for them, but they're good for whoever wants them, basically. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to this recipe, and I'll also put a link to it below the video. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.